What's up, everybody? You're listening to Salah's Corner with the one and only Salah Muhammad. So, back in 2014, Mayor Nutter effectively stopped pursuing small possession of marijuana-related crimes. Sounds like a great thing. Yet, reports show that in 2017, more than 20,000 people were still being arrested. Now, that just doesn't make sense, right? If the city decides they're no longer thinking this is basically a big deal, why are 20,000 people still being arrested? Something is wrong with these numbers. And a lot of that really has to do with how the law is prosecuted, how we look at the white offenders when they are caught with possession versus people in the black community, right? When we get stopped, it's much more likely that we'll be arrested for possession than someone who's white. You're also starting to see across the city, across the state of Pennsylvania, a lot of these CBD industries starting to pop up. Whether it's mall kiosk, whether you go into your local hair store and there's new lines popping up with CBD infused shampoos and oils and sprays and conditioners and all of this stuff that's great for you. Meanwhile, there are people serving sentences in prison for basically doing the same thing. So on this episode, I am sitting with Kida. She's a good friend, a co-worker, and we talk about just that. She has some ins and outs in the industry. Her father has a CBD business that is based out of LA. We'll connect you guys with that, but also understanding what the hell is CBD? What is the difference between THC? What are some of the uses? And the double standard that's in place for the industry versus people that are trying to pursue this in real life. So I've had a lot of people coming to me asking me where I find the time and the space to make all of these podcasts happen. Well, I have to thank the folks at Rec Philly. They provide me the space, the equipment, and the networking capacity to make this take off. And it's not just for other podcasts. Other creative individuals use this space as well. We're talking musicians, photographers, anyone that considers themselves a creative individual. So if that's you, head over to Rec Philly. Visit them on Instagram. And if you find yourself wanting a membership, tell them Salah sent you. We had mentioned on Friday when we were talking about you said you do some work for your dad.
Mm-hmm. So basically, right now with everything, we're moving towards everything's CBD infused with everything.
Right.
So my dad lives in LA, which is the perfect market for it. And over here, we're kind of just getting our feet wet with it. But he sells CBD oils, and at the time I didn't really know much about it or what the benefits were or whatever, and I was just I don't know if people just want to put marijuana infused oils on them, whatever.
Yeah.
But he's no, this is going to be the next big thing. Now it's the next big thing where you're finding it in makeup, lip gloss, whatever.
You mentioned where are you from again?
Well, I was born in Philly.
Okay.
But I grew up in North Jersey.
But you live in Brewery Town.
Brewery Town. Yeah.
So so you and I have this whole, or had this whole back and forth thing when we were talking about Brewery Town versus just basically North Philly. Right. Why do you call it Brewery Town? I'm going towards a specific point.
In 2019, it's not the same North Philly that I remember from, growing up, 5 years ago. It's a different kind of North Philly, so I feel to be honest, there's a stigma attached to living in North Philly.
I can see that for sure.
I mean? If I say, hey, I'm having a dinner party, in North Philly, people might be you know what, I'll catch you out at a restaurant. But if I say, hey, I'm in Brewery Town, they're oh, okay, it's cute over there, let me come over. And
so I feel I have a problem with that stigma, and I know the stigma exists. I think I have a problem more so because we are running away from it.
It's based in gentrification.
It is. It's based in gentrification. It's based in the fact that it became the nice brewery town once white people moved in, and if you refer to as North Philly, that's still the black parts of that neighborhood, and elements of that are represented in the cannabis industry. Like, it's the same thing, right? Like,
Yeah.
CBD, nobody knew what the fuck CBD was.
Exactly.
The fuck is CBD?
Right.
But you start saying that shit and you putting it on shampoo,
Right.
and, like, the white women go crazy.
Fucking CBD yoga.
Yeah. Like, what the fuck is that?
What
What is CBD yoga? Is that a thing?
They smoke CBD. So you have a joint that has no THC, so you don't get high from it. It's not the same. But if you have anxiety, it might lessen the anxiety,
Right.
make you a little bit more relaxed.
Right.
They smoke these CBD joints and do yoga.
That is
Some
the
rich white woman
whitest shit I have ever heard.
Rich white woman shit.
But like, that's the point of this whole thing is like, we have to find a way to quote unquote modernize it and make it safe for those masses to eat, and safe for their palate. Like, what's your correlation between those two that I just made, and like, how does that make you feel knowing that going into the cannabis industry?
I feel like just with like North Philly has always been North Philly, and we just rebrand it and repurpose it and call it something different so it's white people friendly. I feel like we have to, as people of color and black people, we kind of have to find our market in something that we've already been doing. Like our grandmas and great grandmas, if you are from Native or Native American descent, like they've been putting weed in everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
They knew the elements of marijuana, the benefits of marijuana
properties.
Long before everybody else got on board with it in
All of
America.
that. So I just feel like just kind of reclaiming it and remarketing it and repurposing for us, you know, because why let, you know, to be frank, why let all these white people eat of stuff that we've been doing?
I have this internal battle in my head because part of me understands the fact that in order to get the masses to go along with what you have,
Gotta white it up.
you gotta white it. Well, you gotta appeal to the majority population, and the majority population is white people. But the other part of me is like, yo, fucking white people just really only want to make themselves feel comfortable, quote unquote, and then start to take elements of the of that culture to benefit themselves and kind of skip over the hard work that's been the foundation to what they build. Is that something that you see? Is that something that you like have ever thought about in that context?
Like, I try not to. Well, you have to see it and you have to notice it. That's not the issue. It's going to always be there. My thing is just like bringing it to us so that we all see it and notice that this is not just something for somebody else. Like, yeah, they're marketing it to, you know, the masses, which may be like mostly white people, but there's something in it for us as well.
Right. What do you, in your opinion, what is it that's in it for us?
It's just, I mean, with the CBD thing, like I said, it's something that's always been around. There's healing in it. There's benefits to it. And it's just like, it doesn't have to be this, it doesn't have to be, because it comes from a marijuana plant, it doesn't have to be the stigma where it's just your, to get high. If you can get a healing, then why not?
Right.
Whether it be in shampoo or whatever the case is, food, whatever.
Are you, what's your network like when it comes to like the city and the CBD industry? Like, do you travel in circles? Because I find that a lot of independent people such as yourself are secluded in pockets, and there's a lot of you guys, but like not a lot of, there's some community there because there's just almost like I see you kind of thing, but like no real community of like, let's network, let's do something together, let's build, what's your feelings around that?
So for me, since I'm starting out so small, my platform, the only platform that I really have is social media, and it's been the best for business, but also like word of mouth.
Right.
Being as though I work at Trader Joe's at a grocery store, we're one of the only grocery stores right now, besides like ShopRite or whatever, that don't carry anything CBD infused.
Really?
Yes.
That seems like right up their alley. Yeah.
On the ways, but yeah. So being as though there isn't that, and I hear people talk about it a lot, either, you know, my coworkers or customers, I can be like, hey, like, I don't know if you're interested, but I do sell an oil, you know, that if you have anxiety, I feel like this thing, I don't want to discount anybody's illness, but everybody has anxiety nowadays, or, you know, something makes them anxious or they're depressed. So I feel like, hey, like if I can help that, why not squeeze myself in there and say, hey, you know, this helps with depression or anxiety. Not even just that, acne. If you have acne, it helps with. So just word of mouth, and also just using a little bit of platforms that I have, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook.
Do you come across any other like women in the industry, or just, I guess, black people in general? Like what's that experience been like, if any?
I have not. So when I went to LA to meet with the distributor that makes the oil, they also have popcorn that they make as well. And they're all white people. And when they're putting me in touch with people here that I can network with, they're also all white people. So no. And that's what I was saying, that we, like, this is something that we can all do and we can all profit off of it. Why not? It's not like we're selling anything harmful.
Why do you think that is? Like, why, like, do you think there's just not enough of us? Do you think that, like, we're all just kind of doing our own thing and we're not trying to, like, what's the obstacle there?
I think it's a myriad of things. I think it is people are doing their own thing. Also, people are not informed. I think also it kind of it's been considered like a crunchy kind of thing, like a hippie kind of like most people that talk about CBD, like they don't wear deodorant, or like, they're barefoot, whatever, like that kind
feral.
That kind of thing. And that's not it at all. Especially if, like I said before, we're talking about anxiety, acne, you know, those are everyday things that most people have. So.
Yeah, there we who was it? Me, you, and another coworker standing together, and like it's like people are gonna walk up and either get severely intimidated or think they're gonna get some good ass weed.
Right.
Yeah. Like that's the stigma. 3 black people with locks.
Yeah.
The stigma is definitely real for some of us in the industry. I mean, I definitely know some people that I can probably connect you with that are in the industry. What's the name of? We ain't even get there yet. I can't believe we ain't say that. So what's the name of your dad's company?
It's just called Ali Rasai. That's it. That's
Spell
his
that.
name. ALIRASI.
All right, cool.
That's it.
And what are some of the, like you said, he basically sells CBD infused everything. What are some of the things that you enjoy, that you love, that you sell? Is there anything that you use at all?
So right now I just have the oil. It's a lavender oil. So I suffer from migraines, and I just rub it on my temple, or sometimes I just smell it. I went from having to carry around like ibuprofen and all this stuff to just having the oils. And the migraines that I get, like I get nauseous, I get like auras, and like sense of smell, like everything is just thrown off. But I literally just rub on. I feel like I'm on an infomercial. I just
selling your product.
Gotta sell it. But I just rub it on my temple. Maybe in like 5 minutes, you just feel better. You feel a sense of calmness, and then I feel like it kind of attacks any inflammation that you have. So in my case, that would be like my nerves or whatever that is that's causing my migraine. It kind of just causes it to kind of calm down a little bit.
That's dope. I've yet to try any like CBD infused product at all. I smoke some weed all day, but
so it's kind of like, I feel like that's the thing too. Going back to what you said before, like why isn't it a bigger? Not to cut you off. Why isn't it a bigger market? I feel like people are like, well, if it's from a marijuana plant and I'm not going to get high, then what's the point? But there's so many other benefits to it. But going back to what you just said, you can have CBD and THC together infused in an oil if you want, but they kind of counter react to each other, so you won't get high.
Perfect time. What is the difference between THC and CBD?
So CBD is just the cannabinoid. It's part of one of the components of the marijuana leaf, right? But the THC, it's like, I don't even know how to say it, so I ain't even going to say it. But the THC is what gets you high, right? So we have these receptors, like these dopamine receptors in our body or whatever. And so what happens is when we smoke weed, it kind of attaches to these dopamine receptors and you get high. But when you smoke THC, or I'm sorry, not THC, CBD, or if you indulge in anything with CBD, it doesn't connect to it doesn't completely fit in the receptors the same way that the THC would. So you would get some of the same reaction from smoking weed without being high, if that makes sense.
That absolutely makes sense.
sometimes you might smoke and feel like, dang, I want to go to sleep. I feel relaxed, or, I just want to listen to some music. You'll get that same reaction with CBD without the actual, like, damn, I'm high as shit right now.
I think that's something I asked that specifically because I wanted to establish that distinction, but also have people understand that just because something is CBD infused does not mean you're going to get high.
No,
and I think there's a misconception there, and there's this, like, that also doesn't necessarily mean the company that you see at the mall kiosk that's selling CBD is, they're not necessarily advocates for, like, medical marijuana and a recreational use and things like that.
That's the workaround.
Yeah.
Because it's the wave right now.
Right.
So I can sell you, everybody is on this like CBD thing or medical marijuana thing, or we're decriminalizing it, but I'm not going to label it as that.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I know it's the wave.
Right.
So that's the workaround.
It's let's talk about that wave, because I alluded to it in the beginning with the connections to neighborhood gentrification. I specifically said, mall kiosk, because there's literally a mall kiosk that sells CBD products, and occasionally I'll stop by and talk to some of the people that work there. And they it's a real moment, and they're like, sometimes they don't know what I do. They don't know about my podcast or anything like that. So it's usually just regular conversation. And they're like, part of this is like nice because it starts to kind of like normalize like CBD use to a degree. But at the same time, like, this is kind of fucked up because like there are literally thousands of people that are in prison for their use of marijuana and the use of the plant, and having it, not even necessarily smoking it, just for like simple possession charges, couldn't pay bail and stuck in jail. And now all of these companies, these big companies, are capitalizing all of this. Capitalism is like the way to America's heart, and it's like these people that are working there are like in this state of like, man, I gotta have money. I really do support like CBD, but like, fuck.
I feel like it's such a nuanced thing.
Yeah.
There's so many areas to cover with that, and part of it is great, and then part of it is also really fucked up, like you said.
Yeah.
Being a child of like advocates for weed, and being 30, so let's just say 15 years ago, my dad couldn't legally say that he smoked weed, or I would be taken away from him. Right. You know what I mean? Nowadays, it's kind of like encouraged almost. So, and then especially being a man of color, you definitely can't go anywhere and say like, oh yeah, I'm a parent and I also smoke weed. Right. So
your kid will be gone in a heartbeat.
Exactly. So fast forward to now, where it's just like I said, it's the way for everything. It's just kind of fucked up. And then you do have people that have been locked up for doing I forget what they call it now in LA, but like it's basically Uber for weed. Niggas can I say that?
Yeah.
They been doing that shit forever. Like, you could call your weed man 10 years ago and be like, yo, I got $5, meet me on 9th and whatever.
But Uber then found a way to capitalize it.
Now, white people get their hands on it, and it's just like, okay, that's great. You make your money, but what about the people that have been doing it and, have been in jail and locked up and have felonies on their record or can't get certain jobs because of that too? So like it's a really nuanced and like full subject that I feel like, I don't know.
So what's your opinion on this? This is a conversation I had a few days ago with a coworker. Should the state, should Philly, should the country move towards legalizing marijuana with regulations, or just complete decriminalization and kind of no regulations whatsoever?
I think at this point it should just be legalized. But the problem is with that,
with like, regulations or no regulations on it. Meaning like regulating how much you can sell, how much you can consume, how much you can have on you, that kind of thing. Well, who has a specific license to be in business, all of those kinds of things.
I feel like it should just completely be legalized because with regulations, brings it back to like it's a system, and black people never benefit.
Yeah.
Or people of color never ever benefit from any kind of system, right?
Yeah.
So if we systemize it or regulate it, we're always going to be the ass of that regulation or system. So I don't even think that should even be in place, period. I think we should just get rid of that. And if you want to sell it, sell it. If you want to have a store of it, I don't know how that would work. I don't know how you would pay taxes on that. I'm not that person to break all that down. I just feel like it should be legal.
I think that's a big debate within like activist communities because I think some people see it as a stepping stone. So, you know, the decriminalization, but also allowing for like specific type of businesses to sell some of this for medicinal purposes, not necessarily for recreational purposes, allows for a stepping stone to some. But like, it's almost like, I mean, we're past all this shit now. Like there are people that there are businesses and not just like Colorado, LA. Like there are businesses, whether it's for medicinal or for infused CBD purposes, there are businesses that are profiting off of marijuana, the marijuana plant.
Right.
Meanwhile, like younger people and mostly black and brown are still being arrested for like simple possession charges. No matter if they're serving long jail sentences, like an arrest can make you miss your day at work, can make you late for picking up your child from daycare, can make you miss a day of school. Like that's for a community that suffers from high poverty, that can have traumatic effects on their life, just that one arrest. And we all know that those one arrest is an escalation to kind of an avenue to the justice system that just hard to get out of. Right.
You're in there.
You're in. Yeah.
You know, that's on your jacket forever.
Yeah.
And that's why I said I just feel like it should be completely legal. But then you have the business side of things, and it's like, if I can't put an FDA label on it, how can I just go out and make it? So, I mean, I get both sides.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? How can I just go out and have a store and just sell this to people? Because then somebody can come back and say, it did this, and this, and this. So there's a business side of it, but that's why we have lawyers and other people that are more knowledgeable to help us out, and we figure it out along the way. But for now, I just feel like we should just get rid of those regulations.
So with that said, like I said, there's definitely a few different cannabis communities and organizations in the city. Some of them are run by black and brown people, or just, you know, have black and brown people just throughout the organization. So definitely something to look into. PHL Cannabis is a really good. That's their Instagram handle. I've gone to a couple of different events. They had one at the Free Library. Oh, okay. It had a panelist of different like experts on not just how different like legislation that's been put forward by Rep. Chris Rabb in Philadelphia on decriminalizing marijuana, but also a lot of the like medical uses, and like I mean experts where like these people had multiple degrees and doctorates and like. And
I'm not an expert.
Way beyond my level.
I'm just an advocate.
I mean, and that's the experts and advocates are needed just as much.
Yeah.
Because the more people that advocate for something that just makes sense, the better it turns out for people that are literally still sitting in prison while these big corporations are profiting off of the things that they were doing, the exact same things that they were doing.
Way ahead of the curve.
So that's just one of and then there's a couple of other the groups out there. Black Dragon Breakfast Club is one. They do events every I think it's like one Wednesday a month. They call it their Rise and Grind. It's like breakfast infused everything. Like it's amazing. You can roll up a blunt, you can smoke a bowl, you can, you know, kind of everything. The space is safe. They got a bodyguard at the door. They got a DJ. Last time I was there, they was giving out massages. Like,
what's today, Tuesday?
It's today, Tuesday. Yeah, they only do it one Wednesday a month. I don't know if they're doing one tomorrow, but I'll post it in my in the Instagram for everybody. So I have. Let's talk about something else that you do.
Sure.
Which is you do a little bit of written work.
I do. So I've been writing like my whole life. Like I am a writer. It's so weird to say that out loud, but I am a writer.
Why is it weird to say it out loud?
Because most of my work, I've been writing poems specifically, but I've always written in some form. I went to school for journalism and communication and also English literature, but that's not why I'm here. But my poems specifically, I've just written for me. They were kind of like a love letter to myself, whether it be like, this is how I'm feeling on the inside, or encouragement. I've just always written. But it's just until recently that I've decided, like, I've shared my work with a few people and it resonated with them, and they were like, you need to share this. Like, people need to hear this. So it's still a new concept to me, like reading out loud or writing for other people to see. But it's something that, like, when I'm going through a little bit of tough times, like, it's like an inner voice that I need somebody to say these things to me.
That's dope. I mean, like, it's another form of expression, right? Like,
exactly.
For people that write, you know, I think there's a misconception for people who don't write that, like, the people that write are always aspiring to be like something famous or something like that, when it's just like, nah, it's just I have something to tell. So even if it's not like published, or even if it doesn't become a song or a rap album, like it's a form of expression for me more than anything.
It is. I always think of it as like a diary, one, and then when I leave this life, it's something here first. Like, I had this fantasy that I'm gonna put all my poems in like a hole in the wall, and I'm gonna die and move on, or wherever I go, and somebody else finds all this stuff, and it's like, wow, these are somebody's thoughts. This is somebody else's emotion. This is so dope. So I just wanted to leave something here tangible for somebody else that they can relate to. I don't necessarily need to have it published.
That sounds like a scene from a movie.
You know, that's how my brain works.
Yeah. All right. I got one last thing that I ask everybody. What's your most favorite thing in the world right now?
That's such a big question.
It is. First thing that just popped into mind, though.
Food.
There we go. What is it? What's that food that's on your mind?
I just love to eat any kind of food. It doesn't have to be a specific thing. Right now, I'm on this taco wave right now. Fish tacos. But, yeah, I just like to eat food. That's my favorite thing in the world.
I haven't had a fish taco in a good, like, 10, 15 years.
So, my thing with food is, like, everybody don't drink. I like to drink. I like to smoke a little weed. Everybody don't smoke, but you have to eat, right? So, what's one way that you can reach a lot of people besides, like, I mean, food can be an art. I think it's an art. But besides, like, acting, writing, or that kind of thing, it's food. You can show your love of people by just feeding them. I feel like if you invite me to your house and you give me food, like, you really love me, like, you really fuck with me, or vice versa, right? So that's why that's my favorite thing. It's another way to connect.
We're gonna get you some food after this.
Oh shit!
No, I'm joking.
I got Red Bull. I'm good right now.
Thank you for sitting with me today. It was a pleasure. Conversation was dope. Are you going to perform something that you written for us?
Yes. So I wrote a piece like a couple of months ago called Queen Charming. And it's just basically, I just thought about like all these Disney movies that are coming out, right? That already been out, but you know, they're like making it prettier for these new millennial, what do they call these kids now? Gen Z, whatever. Yeah. They're just repackaging stuff that we already got to see, but I just feel like it sucks that all these Disney movies or like these childhood movies that we have of Cinderella, Snow White, everybody's waiting for a man to come and save them. And I was just like, damn, why don't we have any cartoons where the girl is saving herself or she's saving the man?
That's a good point.
So
they don't exist for sure.
It doesn't, and that translates into real life. Because as a young girl, you're like, well, I got to get married. Like, I got to wait for my husband. And it's like, well, that's great. Marriage is a great thing, but you're also great on your own, too.
Right.
So that's just what inspired that.
Dope. All right, what's the name of the piece?
Queen Charming. Growing up, they shouldn't have told us that he was going to show up with a cape and on white horses. Maybe they meant a do-rag with white forces. The only niggas I knew with horses drove Mustangs and Chargers, had kids before they were 19 but wasn't fathers. See, I was taught that he was going to pull up to my tower, just let my hair down, champagne and flowers, and he'd free me. He'd take me away with all my problems I ever had. He filled me with smiles, happiness, and make sure I wasn't sad. But it turns out that he was just a nigga with the problem bag. See, we teach little girls from a young age to look for love, but we leave out the part that's from within. The love you're looking for will never come from him, her, or them. See, self-love and healing must be mastered before happily ever after. You gotta wear your own cape, sis. You gotta save yourself. You can't be looking for no niggas on horses to show up with help. Ariel, Sleeping Beauty, and Cinderella sitting around waiting for some capping-ass fella. This tired-ass narrative is all too alarming. You'll wake up when you kiss yourself and realize you're the real Queen Charming.
All right, I want to give a special shout out to Kida for sitting with me on the podcast today. Make sure you guys follow her on Instagram. That's KIDA BONITA, Kida Bonita. This was a really good conversation. One I am going to constantly be having. And if you are looking to be on the podcast and want to have this conversation with me, feel free to email me or reach out to me with any questions you may have or how much you disagree with everything that I think. Email me at realtalk@salascorner.com. Check out any of my latest blog posts. I got something that I've been working on. We'll see if I feel like putting it out. But you can find all my previous posts at salascorner.com. Salas Corner is recorded out of Rec Philly, is produced by producer extraordinaire Bree Wilson, and features music by Prod by Delgado. For more of my work, visit me at salascorner.com. And until next time, peace, y'all.